Welcome back, everyone, to Robb's Daily Classics. I thought we'd have a little fun today. I found a November of 64 Motor Trend that announced the 1965 Carlines, which I thought 65 was a banner year when it came to performance and just better looking cars overall. It was the year of stacked headlights. Many manufacturers went with stacked headlights, and I guess they sent out a memo back then. But if you like these type of video retrospects, please stay on board. This might be a little long, but if you don't like this, I don't mind you getting off. That's okay. I understand. But 65 was a great year for, I'm 69 years old, so this is all back to my childhood, so to speak. So here's a Ford Cortina, the English Ford line dealer. Now, what I'm curious to know, and I got to look this up later, when you bought a Cortina, did you actually go to a different franchise, or was it a Ford dealer? I don't know. I don't remember it, but it says Ford product, and it said visit your English Ford line dealer. So did they have separate dealers just for the Cortina? And of course, the Lotus Cortina is very sought after right now. That's a $50,000 car, if not more. A lot of ads for spark plugs. That was a big thing. The Pontiac Motor Division in 1965, later on in this year, became Car of the Year. The Car of the Year was given to the full car company for all their Pontiacs because they redesigned all of them, so to speak. So it's kind of fun. Here's a 65 Fairlane. In 66, the Fairlane went with stacked headlights, so they caught up later on. And, a lot of advertisements. I like looking at the artwork. I like looking at the headlines and the copy because I like advertising. Here's an ad for the Rambler, and there's the wife going shopping while the husband's busy working. Guess no kids yet. And back then, when the trunk opened, a trunk was measured how the grocery bag stood straight up. And I guess the Rambler did that very well. This was interesting, with the EPA releasing standards on emissions moving forward. Here it is, 1964, the air pump by General Motors. That was ridiculous. There's a dragster before Don Gall put the engine in the back. Again, another ad for spark plugs. Transistorized ignition. That was big back then as well. Monroe shocks. If you remember the Columbia Record Club, the thing was once you joined, they never released you from it. But, in those days, you didn't have charge cards, so I guess they just kept billing you. Here's a beautiful ad from Chevrolet, and again, the copy is interesting. The woman is sitting in the passenger seat in all these cars except for the Chevy Nova SS, where her boyfriend or husband is driving. And also look at the type font. It's actually typewriter type font. In those days, this was all paste and mechanical, ad copies, and they used photographs as well. But the Krager SS mag, boy, I still love that mag. I probably should buy one just for my house, just to have a look at it. This is an interesting ad for Mercury. I believe this is a Art Fitzpatrick Van Kaufman ad. They were noted for their beautiful design and drawings, their paintings for ads. Mostly I remember for Pontiac and Chevrolet. I don't remember many for Ford and Lincoln Mercury. But what happened is Art Fitzpatrick, he did the background, so he did all this background. And then Van Kaufman did the actual car, so they superimposed the car into the background, however they did that back in those days. But what he was criticized for, Van Kaufman, they call it the Fitz and Van ads, is that he would, basically exaggerate the size of the car. And Pontiac loved this designer, beautiful painter, because the wide track Pontiacs were extremely wide in their ads. And if you can look at this Mercury, how long that rear quarter panel is, it was long, but I don't think it was that long. But it was great advertisements. The beautiful Riviera. Unfortunately, the Rivieras never really took off in the marketplace. It's kind of sad because I think they're beautiful. Bias tires, folks, before radials. How about that? Car clinics, if you had a problem, you couldn't go on YouTube back then. You had to write a letter. And all the 65 cars. And it's very comprehensive. I mean, it tells you all about the options. And for them to put this together in November of 64, they had to work real hard to get all these press photos and all that to get these in on time. And so it was pretty comprehensive. The tempered glass headlight covers on the Chryslers, they're so beautiful. Such big cars. The Dodge Darts were fairly stylish back then. The Barracuda. They say the Barracuda's rear window is one of the largest rear windows ever produced as a mass production car. I thought the Comets were very pretty back then. I remember my dad trying to trade in his 56 Ford for a Comet, and we walked out of the showroom, and he said they couldn't give him the price he wanted. He probably wanted $175, and they probably only offered him $150, and he walked out. Funny. Love the Galaxy of 1965. Always reminds me of NASCAR. Been hunting down those cars for myself lately. The Ford Mustang Fastback, I still think that's one of the most beautiful fastbacks ever designed. The Buick Wildcat, such a great name. Wildcat, the Checker Car Company. Oh, my goodness. They were considered independent. The Cobra was considered an independent car company back then. And as we all know, how Ford-Cobra relationship was. And here's a whole insert on aluminum suppliers, Reynolds Aluminum. And it's funny, back in the old days, they would have engineering companies actually tell the world what they supply to the OEMs as far as an engineering feat goes. And then here's some background on some classic cars like the 55 Thunderbird and the Airstreams, and they give you a lot of information. This was interesting. Disc brakes were just coming out back then, and here's a whole article about disc brakes, and now I have them on my motorcycles and things like that. We take them for granted that they're there. I even have disc brakes on my mountain bike, so it's, kind of crazy, right? And different variations from 1949. Chrysler had a drum brake that looks like it was a disc brake in a way. I don't know. But here's a whole article on fiberglass futures. Of course, it was used in the Corvette as well as the Avante. And that's it, folks. Whole conversation about driver education, get young kids to learn how to drive better. I guess more and more people were getting on the road back then. The story on gasoline is very current. It's I follow the prices of gasoline all the time. I have another channel called Wall Street Automotive. What's interesting here is that on heavy crude oil, they only get 10% gasoline out of a barrel of heavy crude. And one of the issues that Russia has right now, when they export all their oil for refinery, not all, but a large majority of their oil is exported because it's heavy crude. It's kind of heavy oil. It's dirty oil. And the light crude oil, you got more out of it. And that's when they used to talk about Pennsylvania oil was more of a light crude oil that was much more available for refineries. So in the old days, Pennsylvania crude oil was a better grade oil. 1900 Auto Show, my goodness. And here's finally we end up with a Hertz. By the time you dump second gear, cramp the third, you'll know why Hearst is a status symbol. Yeah, it made a big difference. He made a fortune just refining what the factory couldn't do, and it really is a difference, how the cars perform with a Hearst stick. The Dodge was a little quieter back then before they adopted Warner Brothers, Roadrunners and things like that. And that's it, folks. A lot of electronic ignition ads and a lot of good consumer information. And in the back, there was always some people trying to sell some things. And they had a marketplace back then. There wasn't Facebook Marketplace. If you wanted to sell something, you had to get on in an ad in the bylines press back in the old days. And here's people selling stuff in the back, and no big Ferraris or anything like that. Every now and then you'll find a Ferrari for like $1,200, And that's it. Look at that beautiful Lincoln. My goodness, what a beautiful car. Those cars still are bringing some money. The suicide doors are amazing. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the retrospect of the 1965 Motor Trend. And if you have old magazines, don't forget to look at them every now and then. This is Rob. Thanks for joining me.